In a quaint hardware shop named Corbell's Emporium, the daily routine began with the distinct sound of the manager's voice echoing through the aisles. "David, you clumsy idiot, can't you handle these tools properly?" Sean Kirkpatrick would shout almost every day. David Fravor, the nerdy employee, would nod quietly, his face flushing with embarrassment. He had always been a little awkward, but he made up for it with his vast knowledge of hardware and his unwavering kindness to customers. Despite the constant berating from the manager, David would smile warmly at everyone who entered the shop, helping them find the perfect tools and offering valuable advice. Outside the store, a beggar sat by the street, and every time David passed by, he would take a few coins from his pocket and place them in the beggar's outstretched hand. He knew what it was like to be in need, having experienced hardships in his own life. The truth was, David had been bullied throughout his school years for being different. His love for learning and his fascination with technology made him an easy target for ridicule, but he had always remained resilient, finding solace in his passion for hardware and computers. Little did he know that these very qualities would later become his greatest strengths. As time went on, the relationship between David and Sean remained strained. Sean's impatience and judgment only served to make David doubt himself more. But every evening, when the shop closed, David would spend hours in his tiny apartment working on his own inventions, dreaming of a future where his talents would be recognized and appreciated. One fateful day, an unexpected event occurred. Sean, overwhelmed by the demands of the business, decided to let David go. He believed it was the right decision, thinking that David's clumsiness and timid nature were holding the shop back. The bell above the entrance of Corbell's Emporium jingled as Sean stormed towards David, his face flushed with anger. Customers glanced nervously, sensing a brewing storm in the air. "David, I've had enough of your incompetence," Sean barked, pointing an accusatory finger at him. "You've cost this shop more than you've contributed. I can't tolerate this any longer. You're fired." David's heart sank, but he kept his composure. "Sean, I'm sorry if I've made mistakes, but I'm doing my best. Please, give me another chance," he pleaded, trying to hold back the emotions threatening to spill over. But Sean's rage only intensified. "Another chance? I've given you plenty of chances, and you keep letting me down. I need someone reliable and skilled, not some nerdy dreamer who can't even handle simple tools." Sean's words were like daggers, piercing through David's spirit. Customers watched the scene unfold, feeling sympathy for the kind-hearted employee they had come to appreciate. Some exchanged glances, unsure of how to react to Sean's harshness. Feeling the weight of the moment, David took a deep breath and gathered his courage. "I understand," he said softly. "Thank you for the opportunity to work here." With tears glistening in his eyes, David gathered his belongings and walked out of the hardware shop for the last time. As the door closed behind him, the atmosphere in the store changed. It was as if the warmth and kindness David had brought with him had vanished, leaving a void that couldn't be filled. Unbeknownst to Sean, Mr. Corbell had been observing the scene from a distance. He had arrived at the shop earlier that day to surprise David with a special gift for his dedication, but what he witnessed left him deeply troubled. As David walked away, he couldn't shake off the feeling of inadequacy that had haunted him throughout his life. Yet somewhere deep inside, he knew that he had so much more to offer the world. Unaware of the bond between David and Mr. Corbell, Sean tried to put the incident behind him, focusing on finding a replacement for the dismissed employee. But the shop was never the same again. Customers noticed the change, missing David's friendly presence and expert advice. Days turned into weeks, and the shop's profits dwindled. Sean finally realized the grave mistake he had made in letting David go. He couldn't help but wonder what had led the seemingly nerdy employee to be so dedicated and caring to the customers. Feeling a pang of regret, Sean decided to pay a visit to Mr. Corbell, hoping to find some answers. As they sat in the quiet office, Mr. Corbell took a deep breath and said, "Sean, there's something I should have told you a long time ago. David Fravor, the one you fired, he's my nephew." Sean's eyes widened in disbelief and his heart sank as he realized the truth. "Your nephew? I had no idea," he mumbled, feeling a mix of shame and guilt washing over him. Mr. Corbell nodded solemnly, Yes, I kept it hidden to give him a fair chance to prove himself. He's been through a lot, but he's an exceptional individual with a heart of gold. Sean's mind raced with memories of the days he had berated David, never suspecting the man's true identity. "I didn't know, Mr. Corbell. I'm so sorry," he said, regret dripping from every word. Mr. Corbell nodded, his disappointment evident. "I purposely kept it hidden to give David the chance to prove himself on his own merit. He wanted to be recognized for his talents, not his family connections." "I understand now," Sean replied, looking down in shame. "I treated him poorly, and I regret every hurtful word I said. I hoped you would learn to see his true worth, but your actions proved otherwise," Mr. Corbell said firmly. "David is an exceptional individual with a heart of gold. I can no longer have someone in my shop who shows such a lack of understanding and compassion." With those words, Mr. Corbell made a difficult decision. "Sean Kirkpatrick, you are fired," he declared, his voice steady. Sean's heart sank, knowing that he had brought this upon himself. He nodded, accepting the consequences of his actions. Later that day, Mr. Corbell visited David in his house to tell him something important. "David, my dear nephew," he said, turning to face him, "I would like to offer you the position of the new manager of Corbell's Emporium. You have proven yourself to be an exceptional employee, and I have no doubt that you will lead this shop with wisdom and kindness." David was taken aback by the offer, his eyes widening in surprise. "Uncle, are you sure?" he asked, humbled by the opportunity. Mr. Corbell smiled warmly. "Absolutely sure. You are more than deserving, and it's time for you to step into this role." With a grateful heart, David accepted the position as the new manager. He shook Mr. Corbell's hand, feeling a mixture of emotions, gratitude, excitement, and a hint of sadness for how things had unfolded. As the days passed, David led Corbell's Emporium with a different approach, one rooted in compassion, inclusivity, and encouragement. He treated every employee with kindness, recognizing their unique strengths and contributions. The shop blossomed under his leadership, and the customers appreciated the welcoming atmosphere.